everyone. My name is Rosemarie Allen, and I today am interviewing my friend and soul sister, Dr. Nané Cheung. Dr. Nané Cheung and I, we've been friends for over 2 years. We're a part of a group that we formed online virtually. So we've never really met each other in person, but we've formed a bond and a relationship online. And out of that came a book. So we all collaborated, which is nine of us. There's nine collaborating authors on this book, and Nané is one of them, and so am I. Our book is called Belonging: Secrets to Soothe the Soul. And today I'm interviewing Nané, so that you can know who Dr. Nané is, so you can get a sneak peek into what she does. Dr. Nané is a functional and lifestyle medicine doctor, and she focuses on treating mind, body, and spirit, and uses a lot of laughter as well. She's the lady of laughter. So we're going to talk to her a little bit as to what she does, and a little bit about her story in the book. So the first thing I wanted to ask you, Nané, is as I read your chapter and I saw that you are a woman of power, just reading your chapter, it just showed so many phases of ways you had to find ways to belong. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. How was it for you, especially coming from a blended culture? Because I know you're a mix between East and West, Asian and American. And I wanted to know, how was it for you, like finding belonging? Was it difficult for you to like fit in or to find belonging?
Well, I would say, I didn't think of it as difficult when I was growing up because that was considered my norm. But, my father was born in China and came here as an illegal immigrant, and met my mother, who was first generation Italian. So her parents were born in Italy and then came over here. So I had a very different cultural understanding. My mother and her 8 brothers and sisters, loud, loving, Italian, boisterous. And, and then my father was very quiet, and he had one brother who did not live in New York. He lived in Philly. So I didn't really have that much association with my, Asian Chinese side. I mean, we saw them, but really I grew up much more Italian. And my mother, luckily for me, loved obviously the Asian lifestyle and the quiet lifestyle. So at home, it was very quiet, and, we had Chinese paintings and furniture. I mean, she had really a beautiful sense of design and was a great cook. But when we visited her family, it was like night and day. I was like, oh my God, who are these people? So that really took me a while to warm up to, because I was a sensitive soul. And, I always interpreted their kind of boisterousness as like, they're mad, they're mean, all that stuff. So it was interesting. And then, my mother's family was Catholic, Italian Catholic, not really strict. And my father was a Buddhist. So we'd go visit the Buddhist temple in Chinatown. So again, very different dynamic, emotional experiences, but incredible in terms of the food. So 2 great cuisines. So I and always healthy. So I think that really inspired. And my father used to do have a crock pot, the Chinese pots, and he'd boil herbs and things. So I had an association with all of that growing up. And but I my story begins sitting at my kitchen table. Like my first awareness was like who am I and what am I doing here? Like wanting to know what my purpose in life was.
Yeah.
So and I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. But it's like one day I woke up and that was it. One moment I woke up and I was so I've always been a seeker and a questioner, and plus I was born on the 4th of July. So I feel like I'm independent.
Yes.
So I had all these different modes working simultaneously. It took me a minute to figure it all out. Certainly it took me a minute, but that was my pathway, my journey, that really looking back, it's like, wow, who would have ever thought that? Yeah.
I think that's magnificent. How you came East and West and then born July 4th. It's like you came in taking a stand already when you came in on that day.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I always had this internal pressure because I thought I'm a doer, I'm a shaker, now, they're called disruptors. I was like, oh shoot, I was the original disruptor, because I would always be questioning. My mother would say, why are
Mm-hmm.
you asking me so many questions? Like, well, because I just do. Like, I bucked every system.
Mm-hmm.
It was just who I was. And
Right.
again, I don't know where that came from. um, I don't know. It's interesting when we start to grow up and explore. But I
Right.
feel along my path, I've had people enter as mentors or experiences as mentors, and I faced a lot of challenges. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I love in my story that I keyed in on was that I taught myself how to laugh at an early
Yes.
age,
Yeah, I
and
saw it. That's
I
why I
think
say you're the lady of
it's
laughter.
it really is a trend, because it's just I realized I trained myself. Now why? I don't know, because I had an older brother who didn't pay much attention to me, and there were so many things going on that I found that as I started coughing in a corner one day, and I think I had the intention, like, let me see if I can make myself laugh. So I did. I trained myself, and I could laugh like a belly laugh, uncontrollable hysteria. And I've taught that to people. So I think, it didn't emerge overnight. Like, everyone can learn that, because
Yeah.
sometimes you need to learn that, right? There's so much
Mm-hmm.
trauma, and there's so much in the world. I mean, it's so easy to get into overwhelm that you need to find your own space. You need to
Mm-hmm.
create your own space. And, I always think, my premise is that the body can heal itself.
Right.
So that's been my message in my
Yeah.
work, that I feel so strongly about, because I see how I've healed myself through different experiences in my life. I mean, both,
Mm-hmm.
physical, being in a car accident, having, gallbladder issues at an early age. And
Mm-hmm.
then my mother had a lot of health issues. So I always felt called to be that caretaker,
Mm-hmm.
even though nobody asked me. I just, boom, just
Yeah.
jumped into that.
Jumped into that role.
Yeah.
So do you
Yeah.
think that all those things that you've been through help you to be able to find where you belong?
Yeah. I think my belonging was a sense of, like, for me, like helping others,
Mm-hmm.
not focusing on myself necessarily.
Yeah.
I went through early on, like, a couple of, emotional relationship heartbreaks.
Mm-hmm.
And I know one of them, I was, with someone for almost 6 years, from the time I was 19 years old. And, in the span of, we were away in France and came back. And when we came back, he broke up with me. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a heart loss. And then I came
Yeah.
back, I was sharing a house with two other women. They let go of my house, put my stuff in storage. My car was being used by someone that I didn't give permission to. So my car
Mm-hmm.
was gone. I didn't have a job, and I had a dog, and my housemates took my dog, and, like, no contact anymore.
Oh
So I
wow.
feel like, oh my God, like, I lost
Yeah,
everything
that's a lot of
imaginable,
loss.
and, like, kind of to my knees situation. And it was Christmas. So I came back from France 4 months, and came back right before Christmas. And I thought, the worst time in the world, right? When you're supposed to be happy and joyous and spirited. And so that was one of my, initial places where I just thought, I need to just breathe and put one foot in front of the other foot. And I
Mm-hmm.
was able to emerge out of that. And then by springtime, I got a job, and I was able to recreate. So that
Yeah.
experience, which, I don't really wish on anybody, but it was the best thing. It was like, it was failure on every level, but I was
Yeah.
able, just from my wherewithal. And I don't think I was a meditator at that point. I had studied a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of, transcendental meditation, or I knew about it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'd studied different things, and I was, interested in, Asian philosophy. I took, you know, Chinese philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, and all that. So I had an inkling, and Indian texts and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But to put it all together in real time, that was a biggest challenge for me. And
Yeah.
it made me understand that I was a survivor, and that I
Mm-hmm.
could emerge and still within that find the beauty of it. Because
Yes.
obviously it's one of my main stories in my life,
Yeah.
that, okay, I can do it, you can do that too. I mean,
Exactly.
and luckily I had a mother to say, hey Ma, can I move back in? So
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's a great story, Nene. That's a great story. And then so many of our listeners, or the people who are going to be reading our books, are going to be people who are experiencing similar situations, and we'll be able to get something from every author. has their own background and their own stories, and every author's stories are different, but we're all linked by that one thread of belonging. And so we're
Yeah.
all going to be seeing the same thing for the people outside. Everybody has their own story, their own life, but then they each will get something from this because of everybody's different
Everybody.
background and their
Yeah.
different stories. And hopefully that they will all be able to find their way to finding belonging if they haven't found it yet. The stories will inspire and motivate them to be able to get to that point in life.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And, I think because I was not able to tell my stories for a very long time. I mean, you know, there's a lot of secrecy and shame in stories, right? You think, oh,
Mhm. Yeah.
and even me telling my mother's story, like my mother was from the generation that you just didn't divulge secrets, right? You didn't tell like what was going on. And so it was really like a process for me and a journey for me. I mean, over many, many, many years to finally be able to
Mhm.
tell the truth
Yeah.
about it. And even me coming from a mixed race family,
Mhm.
there was some shame in that too, because I remember being in Brooklyn, and when
Right.
the woman found out we were looking for an apartment, and the woman found out that my father was Chinese, and she said, "Oops, it's taken. Apartment's taken. Sorry." I was like, "What?" So, you know, just
Yeah.
things that we grew up with that I don't think I've
Mhm.
ever really, maybe I've told the story 3 times, but it's not that story that I want to divulge. But now I think,
Mhm.
wow, people can understand. I mean, that was a deep
Yeah.
hurt for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think we're in the era now, and I really know that, part of my aim is to reach younger women, because I think they're suffering from this age of social media where they're looking for
Yeah.
such outside affirmation
Yeah.
of who they are, and they need
Yeah.
to find that inner awareness.
And
But
that
and
inner connection.
the connection and the belonging, and to know that there's bigger, better days ahead, because we're risking like high suicide, and there's an epidemic of
Mhm.
obesity, and I mean all of that is like there's something off.
Yeah.
So I really feel like this is part of our mission with this book, and telling
Yeah.
our stories, and even for us to come together,
Yeah.
that there's hope, and again, I say that we're the elder wise women, that we can tell our stories and laugh about our stories, and we don't emerge instantaneously when
Mhm.
we're born. I mean, it takes us years of work, but imagine if we could teach this work to kids that are 18, 19 years old, rather than
Yeah.
waiting till like 30, 40, 50, 60. So I always try to
Right.
impress with my kids also, do the work, process,
Mhm. Yeah.
process, process, get the understanding, like start to love yourself, care for
Mhm.
yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where we all really need to start. So I'm excited about this book and book
Yes.
launch and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Nané, for taking the time to interview with me so
Yeah.
that
Thank
I
you,
could get this
Rosemarie.
story out so that people can know who we are and get familiar with our faces and our stories
Yeah.
prior to even our book coming out. So, guys, our book will be coming out soon. Right now, it's at Balboa Press, and we're working on publication of it. So, once this is finished publishing, then it will be available at Amazon and all of your favorite bookstores. So, stay tuned,
Yeah.
okay, for our next video. Take care
Yeah.
and thanks again, Nane. And thank
Thank
you guys
you.
for watching. Bye.
Bye.